Mbote, 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 brothers. Mbote just means hello in my mother tongue, and the mother tongue is called Lingala. So I hope you learn a new word in African language. Lingala is spoken in a couple of countries in the central part of Africa. So you're talking about Congo, uh, Angola, you have Gabon, you have the other Congo, which is called Congo Brazzaville, for the lack of a better word. Um, yep, you have Lingala. It's spoken as one of the four main languages uh, in the Congo. We got four indigenous national languages. Lingala is one of them. The other ones are Kikongo, Chiluba, and Swahili. But these are just the four main languages in terms of indigenous African vernaculars. But if you go deeper to understand the magnitude of diversity that we have in the Congo alone, we have 450 ethnic entities who, each has its own uh, language. Some of them are similar, and also the other ones are different, fundamentally different. So it's the diversity, different customs, traditions, um, you name it. If you go down in detail, you'll see how diverse and how deep runs the cultures of Africa. Uh, so that's just to give you a flavor of the mosaic that this complex living and breathing body of people with multiple traditions in Africa. So Mbote again, Mbote, Mbote. I hope that my video will find you in good spirit as we are exploring this theme of African slave experience on the continent, what happened in terms of involvement of the sons and daughters of Africa to partake into this monstrosity, this awful experience that we have suffered, all of us, whether you are part of those that left the continent or they were taken away from the continent to the diaspora, or those who stayed on the continent. The experience of slavery did not spare anyone. This is a family. Imagine you taken away from your family, from your mom, from your dad, from your siblings, to a land that you don't know. Not just that, to go and suffer what brothers and sisters endured in the so-called New World. At the same time, think of the pain and suffering of a mother on the continent whose children were taken away and was left without her blood and her kith and kin. Painful for those who left and those who stayed. So either way you look at this situation about the experience of slavery, there is no one side that did not suffer from this. As a matter of fact, if Africa, the motherland, is still in the condition that it is today, part of it is the blow that we endured with the deportation of our brothers and sisters that left a vacuum on the continent, because they took some of our best men and best women, some of our strongest brothers and sisters. So the continent lost, the family lost a great deal. So to approach this situation of slavery, as sensitive as it is, there is a realization that this is a family experience that took all of us into the depth of our souls to question what happened, to try to understand, to know, to learn. But today we're talking about this situation more than 500 years after, trying to understand what took place. And in this discourse, in this process, of course, there are feelings, strong feelings, emotions coming out of this difficult experience. Those who found themselves in a new world suffering slavery, and those who stayed on the continent suffering colonization from the same people. There is a realization that either side that you want to look at this issue, whichever angle you choose to address it or to view it, at the end of the day, the loss touched all of us in one way or another, and we're still suffering from it. So that's where I always like to acknowledge, first of all, that aspect. Very important for us to acknowledge the fact that this is a situation that really touched every single cell of our bodies, of our memories, of our experiences, of our mind. And we have to acknowledge the suffering of those who found themselves in these plantations of North America, South America, the Caribbeans. We have to acknowledge that before we start trying to explore, the events, what actually took place. And we also have to acknowledge, we have to realize that those who were deported, the families stayed on the continent. Mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, who were victims, not to see their blood anymore. That emptiness, that void that was left in their lives. It's a very deep pain and suffering that was followed by colonization, which in many respects reflected the conditions of slavery at home. In some cases worse. Think about the Congo. The Congo under the Belgium. We lost 10 million people in a short space of 20 years. The genocide is there. To see, to be explored. In the most brutal ways. Hands cut off. Genitals cut off. Beaten. There is a book entitled The Ghost of Leopold that touches the surface of this experience. That's brutal. Slavery on the continent at home, like you home, basically. You are not in America, you are not in Europe, you are at home. The same people that took your brother, your mother, your father away, the same people followed up with another experience filled with atrocities for our brothers and sisters on the continent. And it's not just the Congo. If you go to Namibia, you hear the story about the Germans there. You go in Angola, the Portuguese, you go different places where colonization destroyed lives. Very painful. So, when we're looking at this reality, as we're questioning ourselves, did we participate ourselves in this awful experience of slavery? Did we sell our own brothers and sisters into slavery? That's the question we are exploring here. I watched the video of the preacher who's talking about traditional chiefs selling their own people into slavery to the white man. And I believe the title of the video is The Enemy Within. And thank you, Ian, for posting that, because that's part of what we need to go through. Touch, the sensitive spots, and feel the pain, and let's bring those emotions out so we can heal. We can look at it in our face for what it is. But looking at a video, it is an approach that has to be considered when such a sensitive topic is being preached about and communicated to masses. I believe in this particular case it was in a church. One of the key considerations that we have to realize that Africa, as I said earlier about the Congo, we have this vast land with a lot of rich culture and diversity, and with different social systems and economic statuses. When a statement, a blank statement like that expresses a thought such as the chiefs sold their own people in slavery. As much as it may contain some factual information, it is not totally true, to put it that way. Most of the chiefs, the majority of the chiefs, we got to understand what that institution of being a chief means and what it represents. It was not just something that you vote or sit down. It's connected to the ancestry of the people, the tradition, the spirituality. That's where they're like the guardian of the people of the land. And the overwhelming majority of our kings and queens and chiefs fought against the Europeans. When this enterprise, Machiavellic enterprise, started happening. One example is Queen Zinga of Angola, and there are many of them. I think I post a video with just a few of them. So it wasn't like a system where chiefs set up, they're just selling the people. Yes, some of them got corrupted and they became collaborators in the slave trade, in the enslavement of their people. Yes, correct. It's a fact. But they were in the minority. They were not the overwhelming majority of the chiefs doing that to make a blank statement, to paint all in one brush. That does not excuse the fact that it did happen and it hurt both our brothers that left and those of us who stayed on the continent. But we have to be genuine about, when we are communicating the information, we have to be sincere. And in a lot of cases, we are literally repeating the views of those who actually initiated the slave trade and benefit from it and created different justifications to remove the guilt from their own shoulder. The transatlantic slave was not an African enterprise designed by the chiefs and they decided like this is what is going to happen. No. It was designed, managed, and exploited by the Europeans. There were African collaborators who took into the experience for their own selfish interests and agendas. So we have to be fair and balanced and truthful about, making statements condemning a whole body of institutions, chiefs, and tradition, while we have those that lost their life in the process of protecting their people, their kingdom. You go in Belgium, in a museum of Tervuren, where you have the heads of our chiefs cut off by the Europeans because they were trying to defend the people, the land, the continent. So let's establish that. It's very important we realize that the slave trade was a European initiated, run, and controlled by the same people that later got involved in colonization. So that fact has to be established. And when we establish that, that is why when we are dealing with this kind of situation, it's very important to find the right information, the right sources. Draw from people who studied the topic. People who spend some time going into the details, and, researching and bringing out, things that are placed in context. Because making blank statements take things out of context. So this first point it is not to justify those who actually took part into that sad experience, is to put it in the context. Because the whole family suffered from this. Those who left and those who stayed. And the few collaborators that we had, the bad apples, as you can call it, yes, they were there. But they cannot be placed to represent all the chiefs, all the Africans, as is it put in a lot of the popular messages that circulate. And most of the time, these messages are engineered by the same people that were responsible for slavery and colonization. They control the media, they control the, books, that's the finance operations to, create, stories, information, and emphasize certain things and downplay others. So we have to realize that dynamic. That is why the credibility of this journey to understand what happened to us has to be taken seriously so that we come out of this situation fair enough and balanced enough to see the fact as they occurred, not as somebody's trying to portray it for their own agenda. So that was the first aspect I wanted to share, and I will come back with another piece uh, to follow up on other points that the video touched on. Talk to you soon. Kiangala, your brother. Bye-bye.